Good afternoon. I'm Victor Johnson, career facilitator with Goodwill Columbus Workforce Development. Welcome to this afternoon's presentation on the basics of communication. Uh, I'd like to also say hi if you're watching this on a replay. Remember, Goodwill Columbus is here to help you with employment needs, including resources for getting jobs and for training for jobs. So we'll get started with the communications. Okay, I will change this just a little bit so you can see it better. All right. Okay. So when we talk about communication, and we're talking about developing communication skills. So what does that mean to you when someone has communication skills? Do you think about someone like, I don't know, but like Barack Obama, who's uh, good at giving speeches, but maybe Michelle is even better at giving speeches. Do you think about the people that we've been seeing on the news a lot? You know, the governor, the state health director. What do you think about? And how about your communication? Do you think you're a skilled communicator? And then consider how many ways there are to communicate. So let's look at how many ways there are to communicate and what communication skills really are. So communication is defined as the act of transferring information from one place, person, or group to another. So every communication involves at least one sender, a message, and a recipient. And that may sound simple, and it does sound simple, but communication is a very complex subject. Communication skills are abilities you use when giving and receiving different kinds of information. Communication skills involve listening, empathizing, feeling, as well as just hearing words. So, the forms of communication that we have, spoken or verbal communication, that makes sense, you know, face to face, telephone, video, you know, radio, other media, your cell phone. And then there's nonverbal communication, body language, gestures, how we dress, how we act, you know, our scent, kind of music we like. Things like that all communicate something to another person. In the forms of communication for written communication, you know, letters and books and emails and on the internet and, you know, text on a phone. And, you know, some people like that. They like to communicate by the written word. They're more comfortable communicating with written word, or maybe they'd rather send a text than call someone. And then there's some people who like visualizations, you know, graphs and charts and maps and logos. And, you know, we've been seeing, especially from our government, we've been seeing a lot of charts and graphs and things like that to convey information to us. And hopefully in a simple way so we can understand it. However, there is a communication skill that is often overlooked, but it is crucial. It is said by, you know, some really important people and some really uh, distinguished people, and as far as education and research and, you know, even business, that this is the most crucial communication skill. Can you guess what it is? I won't hold you too long. It's listening. It sounds simple, but it's really not. You know, listening allows you to avoid biases. It allows you to avoid drawing false conclusions. You can build a relationship with people. You make connections with people through listening. And when people know that you're actually listening to them, that builds trust. And when you're listening to someone, you're learning. Basically, you know, you're always learning when you're listening to someone. I'm going to spend a bit more time on it. And this is the thing about listening. Consider all the times you've listened to someone and think about if you were really concentrating on what they said. Were you listening to understand, or were you listening and just waiting for your turn to talk? Were you listening with, you know, all your senses, or were you just listening because the person was, in front of you? Listening is so important because it's that communication skill that keeps us working, especially in the workplace, working as a team. Businesses can't exist if the workers are not listening to each other. They're not listening to their supervisors. If the supervisors aren't listening to their subordinates. Listening is just crucial to everything that we do if we're going to do it right and if we're going to learn and grow from the situation. Listening takes, there's a therapist named Peck who said that listening takes setting aside of oneself. So when you're listening to when you're listening to someone, you take all that stuff in your brain that's running through your mind and you put it away. And you put away your experiences and your biases and prejudices and your opinions, and you just listen to that person. Listen to their words, to understand their words, not just to hear them, but to understand their words. And when random thoughts come into your head, you just let them go and you keep listening to that person. That's the thing that builds trust, and that's the way you learn. That's the way you make connections. Uh, you can learn something from anyone. Everyone has something that they are an expert in. Everyone does. Now, also becoming a skillful listener requires focus. So you keep your focus on the person who's speaking and listen to understand. Don't just wait for your turn to talk. Consider that you can learn something from anyone. If you don't understand something, ask questions and don't interrupt or assume you know what the person's going to say. That's one of the things and think about it, especially, let's say you're calling someplace or, you got something at a store and it turned out to be the wrong thing or it broke or something, and you're calling customer service and you're trying to explain to them the situation and they keep interrupting you, or they assume that they know what the problem is. Doesn't that just get to you? Doesn't that bother you? Because that person is not actually listening to you. If they interrupt, they're not listening to you. They just want to talk. And then don't let your mind wander. Stay in the moment. Be there for that person. Be present for that person. We're also going to talk about communication styles. And there are two gentlemen. Their names are Chris Boone and David Dixon. And they did this DOTS model where they listened to all kinds of experts and they listened to the researchers and they went back to things like Myers-Briggs and effective listening research, and they came up with this method or system of listening and communicating, and it's just called the DOT system, and it's just 4 dots. There's a purple dot, red dot, yellow dot, blue dot. Each one of the dots represents a style of communication that a person might have. And the important thing to remember is you may be a particular color dot, but there are times during the day that you might exhibit, you might be a purple dot, but sometime during the day you're acting more like a yellow dot, or you're communicating more like a blue dot. So there's a predominant communication style, excuse me, but we adapt our communications for the moment, for the situation. So you might be a different color in a different situation. Now, the purple dot is called the visionist. The dominant style of communication is inner knowing. And maybe you've met people who, when you talk to them, they just have to see, they seem like they've got this great intuition. And, you might ask them, well, how did you know that? And they say, well, I just knew. Not sure how I knew, but I just knew. I just knew. I know. Um, Purple dots are intuitive, but they think of the future and think of ideas or create plans that cause them to think ahead of their time. They're quick witted, energetic, imaginative, and creative, talkative, curious, flexible, and unpredictable, and often think of the future and the big picture of life. So, as I'm going through these descriptions of each dot, just think about the one that describes you best. The red dot is the rationalist. The rationalist is a deeper understanding of what life is all about, but have very little time for details. And that's not details as in I would skip details of something important. It's details as in maybe trivial details or unnecessary details. You know, Red dots, their thinking is in word and phrases, and their ideas are uncluttered. You stick to your own ideas. Your projects are more successful when you stick to your own ideas, and you tend to be creative with your solutions to problems. You like original ideas and actions rather than traditional ones. People who are strong in the red dot nature tend to be good leaders because they can give clear, simple directions that others can follow. Red dots tend to be cautious and thoughtful, hesitant until they know people well, and then they can become affectionate and caring. They're very literal and aware of the physical world, uncompromising about personal standards, and diligent and conscientious, and organized and decisive. So, are you conscientious? Are you organized? Do you like to get to the point? You know, you don't want a bunch of detail. You don't want to hear the whole story. It's the kind of maybe you're the kind of person that when someone gives you something to do, uh, they start giving you a lot of details, or like my wife used to say, how long a story are you going to tell me before you get to the point? That's a red dot. You know, please just tell me what I need to know, and I'll start doing what I need to do. That's a red dot. The yellow dot is called the pictorialist. And if you're high in yellow, you need to see things. Uh, Seeing things like graphs, charts, signs. You communicate with yourself and others through mental pictures. So you have a mental picture of what you want to communicate. And when people communicate with you, you get a mental picture in your mind of what they're saying, what they're communicating. You can organize easily and need to arrange things so that there's a balance and harmony in your environment. You may have a photographic like memory and therefore can easily remember names, dates, and places that you have seen only once. Uh, Yellow dots generally love tradition. When someone seems unconventional or goes against tradition, you may begin to feel uncomfortable. And yellow dots are very time conscious. Being organized and striving for perfection is just natural behavior for you. So, are you a yellow dot? Are you a perfectionist? Do you see things in pictures? Are you the kind of person, somebody gives you directions to their house, the first time you follow the directions, but the second time you go, you remember just from what you saw the first time? Then you might be a yellow dot person. And finally, we have the blue dot. The blue dot is called the sensationist. Uh, very sensitive and pragmatic. Feelings are most important to blue dots, and they like to be close to people that they're comfortable around. Uh, Blue dots may use a lot of gestures when they speak. They might, use their hands a lot when they're talking about something, and you know, like this, that kind of thing. So blue dots, um, you may use gestures when they speak more than other people, maybe. This helps you put your feelings into what you're communicating. The blue dot has an ability to calm a situation, which is of enormous benefit to the other natures. Blue dot people are quiet, pragmatic, caring, sensitive, and strong, articulate and tactful, highly empathetic but easily hurt, productive, organized, and responsible. Blue dot people are sensitive people when it comes to communication. A blue dot person may assume that they understand what's going on in a room if they walk into a room and everybody's depressed or everybody looks sad. The blue dot person will pick up on that, but the danger is the blue dot person might, think I did something to make everybody upset, or make everybody sad. That's the danger of uh, being too sensitive around your coworkers or your family and friends if you're a blue dot. So, what's all this mean? Why is this important? Uh, Basically, when you understand the ways you communicate and understand maybe what color dot you are or what communication style you use, you're more effective when you communicate with other people. And you also can understand the ways people react to you. Let's say you're a person that likes to give a lot of detail, and the person that you're giving this detail to just seems like they want you to just be quiet, just shut up. You you can then understand that person might be a red dot, and then you can customize your communication so that you're still getting the same message across, but the person is actually listening to you because it's closer to their style of speaking or listening. So you think before you speak, and the reason why you should is because you understand about communication. You understand how things might be taken if you say them in a particular way. I'll go back to the red dot. Sometimes red dot people, because they're, matter of fact, just to give me the facts, just tell me what I need to know. That's too much. I just need to know what to do. They might seem like they're impolite. They're not. That's just the way they communicate. They communicate best with the details, and that's all they need. So they're not trying to be impolite. They're just trying to get the facts the way that they're used to communicating. And then when you understand the ways that others communicate, of course, you can adjust the way you communicate to their style, and you can avoid misunderstandings or hurt feelings. And then understand how others might react to you. Once again, that's the thing about understanding communication styles. Understanding your own and understanding the way others might communicate can help you understand a person's reaction to you when you're talking to them. And of course, because you can do this, you can develop trust and a collaborative relationship, especially with your coworkers. So, think about the dot system, and I'm going to leave this up on the screen for a while. This is the quiz you can go to find out what color dot you are. And, once you find out what color dot you are, why don't you, show the quiz to your friends or family, you know, find out what color dot they are. Husbands and wives. Are you a wife that the husband wants to tell you a long story every time he needs to talk to you about something? Or are you the husband that doesn't need to hear a long story when your wife tells you, "Oh, guess what happened to Sheila?" And you say, "Okay, what happened to her?" She says, "Well, you remember Sheila. She's the one that came to the party at the time, when we did this." You understand what I'm saying. So find out what your dot color is. Take the quiz and then get better at communicating. Communicate with your friends, your family, your coworkers in ways that they can understand you, you can understand them, and then you can build trust and a better relationship because of that skill that you've learned. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend. We'll be back next Monday at 10 o'clock on Facebook, Goodwill Workforce Development Facebook page. And we'll also be back again at 2, Monday through Friday on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. Goodbye.